had some technical difficulties. So welcome to the June meeting of the Cabinet. I'm Councillor Perai Ahmed, the Leader of the Council. So for the public record, we have Cabinet members present here as well as senior officers, some non-Cabinet members also present, and additional officers are also joining the meeting virtually online. If any virtual attendees wish to speak, they should indicate with the yellow hand icon and we will pick this up in the meeting. The meeting is being streamed live and recorded by the Council for subsequent broadcast by the Council's internet site. So can I please ask Cabinet members to introduce themselves and state their portfolio area?
Councillor Sarah Williams, Cabinet Member for Housing and Planning and Deputy Leader.
Lucia Desneves, Cabinet Member for Health, Social Care and Wellbeing.
Councillor Dana Carlin, Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Services.
Councillor Seema Chandwani, Cabinet Member for Resident Services and Tackling Inequality.
Councillor Ruth Gordon, Cabinet Member for Placemaking and the Local Economy.
I'm Zena Brabson, Cabinet Member for Children, Schools and Families.
I'm Emily Arkell and I'm the Cabinet Lead for Culture and Leisure.
Councillor Ajda Ovat, Cabinet Member for Communities.
Mike Hekata, not Cabinet Member for Technology, Climate Action, Environment and Transport.
Thank you. And when other speakers do speak, can they please introduce themselves as well? Apologies. Do we have any apologies for absence?
None, Chair.
Okay. Item 3, urgent business. We do not have any new items of urgent business. There are 2 items of late exempt business in relation to items 28 and 29. These items were not available at the time of publication due to the need for additional verification and consultation on this information before decision making at the Cabinet. So as Chair, I do accept these reports as late business in accordance with Part 4, Section C, paragraph 3.3 of the Constitution. Can I please ask if any Cabinet members have any declarations of interest to make tonight? No declarations of interest. Item 5, notice of intention to conduct business in private and any representations received and the response to any such representations. So there were no representations received at the agenda publication stage in relation to the exempt items on the agenda. Can we please turn to the minutes, which are pages 1 to 46? And this is just to agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of April 2025 as a correct record. Item 7, deputations, petitions and questions, none received. Item 8, matters referred to Cabinet by the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, there were none. So if we can move to item 9, which is the Haringey Youth Strategy 25 to 2030. Councillor Brabazon will introduce, and I think we've got some special guests here tonight and I'll let them introduce themselves. Thanks. Over to you, Zena.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed, and can I welcome the 3 members of our Youth Council here who are here to share their views about the youth strategy. And we're really delighted to be introducing our first youth strategy, which runs from 2025 to 2030 and has been informed and co-produced with young people in the borough. So this is a really great step forward, and it's been a long path to really develop the Youth Council. I'm very grateful to Jackie, Simone and Natasha for all the hard work they've done to get this together, and all the other officers who've been involved. The whole approach for the strategy has been underpinned by collaboration and co-production, and we have wanted to hear the voices of young people in the development of the strategy, and that runs through the entire document, which is attached to the report, and which I'm sure everybody has cast their eyes over. It's needs-led, it's inclusive, diverse, and supports young people to feel safe, learn new skills, and we want young people to be engaged in influencing decision-making on topics that are important to them. So, for example, we were talking this afternoon about the climate action plan being developed in the council. And for young people, this is a hugely important issue. And we would hope that you would be contributing to how we approach the climate crisis which is clearly happening as we're in this boiling hot day. The key priority of the youth strategy has been to develop a borough-wide approach across the whole youth sector that is coordinated, offering a youth offer that meets young people's very diverse needs. The strategy includes a very comprehensive mapping and a needs assessment, and I'm sure anyone who remembers being a teenager, you know how difficult it is to know where people go, what drives them, what's their interest to them. It's very individual, and so we have to work to that type of agenda. But we want to provide opportunities that will benefit young people as they make their transition to adulthood. And I commend the report to the Cabinet and ask you to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brabazon. We're going to have some input from the team. So, Natasha, I don't.
My role actually involves inspiring and encouraging young people to be involved in the youth panel. Sometimes that can be quite challenging because although you would think you would have the support of the schools, a lot of the times you don't. And sometimes I have to reach out to Councillor Brabazon with her contacts within the schools. But I can say from when I started, which is a year ago, where there was only 12 members of the youth panel, that it's actually now 32. So it is actually growing. So I've actually called these individuals that are actually here, they're ambassadors. So they represent the schools in their areas. So I'll pass it on to Yasin.
Yeah, hi, my name's Yasin Doga and I'm a Haringey ambassador.
Hi, I'm Zachariah and I'm representing Latimer School. Hello, I'm Max Gray and I'm representing Portsmouth School.
You can see we've still got technical difficulties tonight. Okay. Do any Cabinet members have any questions? Oh yeah, that's sorry. Did you have some? Yeah, I hoped you would have. Have you? Are you going to say something? Okay, over to you.
Yeah, so the youth panel have had quite a lot of impact in doing this survey in accordance with Haringey's youth strategy. So when we were developing it, and as ambassadors, we were made to share it. So me personally, I went to college outside of Haringey, so I tried to snowball this survey between my peer groups and other peer groups, and I got quite a bit of feedback, mostly positive. I think it was very inclusive, very diverse. It covered a lot of topics. It had very good questions in terms of options. If I have it here, just bear with me 1 second. Yeah, so one of the first question was, what types of youth services or activities in Haringey do you participate in? And I think there was a very good range with arts and culture, mental health services and spaces to socialize. It made it open to young people. It wasn't scary or daunting. So it was quite simple and I think productive to fill out. I think young people got a lot out of being able to properly share their voices, especially when they're being told that it will make change. Although I do think there should be a more of a set structure with some of the questions and the outcome. I think young people need to know how answering these questions and doing more general youth activities in relating to the youth strategy will help affect them. There needs to be more awareness and they need to be told directly, not through word of mouth, directly from the people who do have authority and power over the decisions that affect them about what is going to happen. And yeah, that's my feedback. Thank you.
Hello, as I said, I'm Max Gray. I, through the Youth Council panel, my bad, did help spread this survey. And what I found from within schools was that though it was a very good survey, to share it was difficult because how I did it was I asked one of my particular teachers to like let it be done in class, because from my experience, I don't think many people would have done this without more encouragement or sort of being forced. So what I tried to do is get a teacher to do it, and they said they would ask the head of year, and they did. But what happened with me is after I asked and I tried to get it done within a lesson, I was basically ignored. And as Natasha was saying, she said it was difficult to sort of contact with schools and them helping. I really found this within trying to get it filled out within lessons.
When I went to, I sent the survey to my form tutor, but because because I go to school out of Haringey, most people in my class didn't really like have anything to do with Haringey, so I got as many people as I could to do it, and I couldn't really spread it that further, because I tried to speak to other teachers about it, but it was and it was hard to get the kids, hard to get other children to do it as well, because they didn't really have like a proper incentive to do it. So.
Yeah, so about what I've been getting from my peers about it is, yeah, again, they don't really see much outcome. Me, because I'm inside, I've been doing work with Haringey for like numerous years. I understand, and I know it takes long and there are challenges, but the more general population of young people don't understand that, and it's because they are left in the dark. They're not told much, and when they are told much, it's through bodies of authority that they don't really like. Like, if your teacher tells you something, you know, you don't really care that much. So I think it needs to be more transparent within the community. You know, we need to really show the young people that we are there for them, you know, and that we are trying to make change. Surveys like this are all well and good for the council, but they're not necessarily that good for young people individually.
Yeah, I agree with what he said. I think there's young people that they're not told much, and they're not told much from people who really are influential to them. I think there's another problem with a lot of teachers, specifically with my school, being disinterested. But yeah, I don't think I agree with what he says, and I don't think young people are told enough, and I don't think they take it as seriously as they could, because of sort of they're just not aware of it. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with what Max said as well. Like some teachers, they don't, no, people don't really see the importance of it.
Thank you for your honest feedback. I think we might need to add a few disclaimers. but thank you. No, it's really important that you able to come here and share that. And I think we are listening and we will pick up on that feedback, I can promise you. So let me turn to the Cabinet members. Do you have any questions for either the Cabinet member or the young people? Seema, Councillor Chamwani.
Thank you. So just to let you know that when you get a bit older, you also don't like doing surveys, and you also feel like you're not being informed. I guess young people or younger people have different ways of communicating with each other. So if you had an idea of how better, I know you wish that teachers would be able to help you communicate, but then as Yasin said, teachers are sometimes the last person that young people listen to. How would you think it would work better to get young people more engaged in saying what they want or understanding what's available?
I think if there was more of like an outreach to like telling like through social media, showing young people what there is to like and how they can impact like change, because some people just don't think they just think this, oh, it's just adults, but actually young people are very important in changing the borough, but since young people don't really know that, so yeah.
So you make a good point. I think young people need to kind of figure out ways to explore how the council can help them. And I think one of the key ways to do that is, I know it's difficult, but to increase funding of youth-led projects. I think when people see their peers doing something, it encourages them. Same as me. I've been working in the council, well, helping with projects since I was 13, and nearly every single one of those projects was youth-led, and it encourages you, and it actually allows you to see. So I think maybe spread the word. The young person's platform is social media. We're all on there. Nearly everyone has a phone. So I think these youth-led projects, in combination with what Zach said about social media, can make a really huge difference with how young people view the council and what the council are doing for them.
Councillor Carlin, who's a finance lead, by the way.
Carrying on further with this discussion, I was wondering, taking into consideration what the young people have said to us tonight, how the service might think about how to promote this youth strategy, and how to keep it as a live and constantly updating document, so that it's not just something that's sitting on the council website, but actually becomes something relevant to people's lives.
Me. I think that's a really important question, obviously, because what we've heard is that it's quite hard to engage people. So if I can turn it around slightly, I think one of the important things is to understand from you what you think about youth work, and the difference between being engaged in a youth provision or a young, it's a different type of activity from school, and how we then extend that to more young people. Because my own observation, which was when we were at the event at Tottenham, I think you were there, the Tottenham Voices thing, is that young people didn't know what was around. They had absolutely no idea that the council, that there was so much resource. And so I think we do need to disseminate it. I think it's really important to talk to the secondary heads about having a relationship with the youth service. I think that's something we do have to do. And it is difficult because schools have their own work programme. But the other thing is how we promote the value of a youth provision. We've got the summer holidays coming up. There's loads of stuff going on. Do young people know? Will they participate? Or the sort of, when I was a teenager, I spent a lot of time not going anywhere, it's part of the territory, really. But you know what I'm saying. I'd be interested in your views. I'm not sure I've answered your question, Dana, but you've opened a whole interesting area.
So I agree. Young people mostly wouldn't come to most of the events. Not even if they do know. I think it's because it's a bit surface level sometimes. Sometimes it does sound a little bit boring. For a young person, especially if you don't really know the meaning behind it. For example, I know if I go to an event, I can slap it on my CV. That will help me out. That will make me, that will allow me to make connections. But if I had a different mindset, most of the time I would think I do this and it's pointless. It's a dead end. So I think having a long-term relationship with young people is what will make the borough thrive in the young sector. For example, me, I started when I was 13, and now I'm one of the young citizens winner of Harringay. So I think having a long-term, fulfilling relationship between the councillors like you, who we don't usually get to see, the everyday young person in Harringay will not see a councillor. They won't know who you are, what your name is. So I think building that long relationship, making it fruitful for not only you, because you get your representation and, you know, you get a lot of it, but also for the young people, and make sure they know and understand that they can do things with the connections they make at these events.
Any more questions from the cabinet? Councillor Catter.
It's actually just a comment, just to say that I think it's amazing the articulate, confident input that you've given to this meeting, insightful. And, you know, I hope that there's community leadership, policy shaping somewhere in your futures, because you're a credit to the borough.
Sorry. As you can see, this is just a small proportion of the youth panel. The youth panel consists of people aged from 11 to 25, and they're from different boroughs. As you and, you know, I'm 52, and we know that most people back in those days, if they joined a youth council, it was mostly middle class. Some of the people that are on my youth panel are from Broadwater Farm Estate, from Park Lane, from Northumberland Park, and their families are struggling. Now, if I was to able to get the connections within schools where I can actually talk to parents that can encourage their young children to join the youth panel, which has such a voice, as you can hear from three of these gentlemen, and we've got females, most of considering there are a lot of females also in the youth panel, and they've got so much to say. So I do welcome any of you to attend my youth panel meetings, which are once a month. You can come along to introduce yourself and let them know your journey, how you actually arrived where you are today. Because it's so important, as that gentleman has actually said, articulate, bright, and it brings so much to the platform. We have to stop, I'm not saying all of you, but there are individuals within the council that sometimes young people are our last thought. It has to be from the beginning. If you've got a project, a policy that you want to create or anything, they need to be from the beginning of the actual meeting, not at the end, because they've got a lot to say. So just thank you for inviting us. It's just such a pleasure. And I feel when I'm sitting here beside them, I just like, yes. So thank you.
Sorry, also the young people, girls and boys. I know this doesn't look very good right now, but we are hosting the London Festival of Architecture in Rising Green, which was fully co-designed by young people, a youth-led project. So is our performances and our talks about the London Festival of Architecture. Our theme is Young Voices, and for any of you councillors to show up and be there, it'll be really encouraging and supportive. It'll be good for people who haven't met you. There'll be other young people there who, you know, you guys haven't made a connection with. It'll be good to get some support and maybe further network and further see how we can make some of these youth-led projects. Thank you.
Thank you. It's all going to seem downhill from here on now. The other items. Certainly it'll be added to my list to come and visit the youth panel, and I'm sure colleagues around the table will join me too. But just to say, obviously we have cabinet is the leader and the lead members, but we also have the most senior officers in this council here as well. So we're all hearing, listening, and you'll certainly see me within the next month as well. But thank you very much, and now to business. But thank you for coming along. Oh, apologies. Yes, Scott, you wanted to come forward. Got carried away there.
Certainly one of the most interesting starts to a meeting I've been to in a while. Super. Okay. 3 questions on this one. Fairly short ones. How will the success or otherwise of this plan be judged? All 7, and then the second question. All 7 priorities for the strategy appear to have spending implications. Just wondering, obviously, given the council's financial position, how will the recommendations be prioritised? So which ones we'll be looking at as more key than others? And then, give a second, let you write that down as a really long one. And then the last question, given the national youth strategy is planned for 2026, the national strategy, what was the thinking behind putting out the Haringey strategy first?
How would we measure success? Anne was out of the room, so she might want to hear the questions again. But how would we measure success? I think about, certainly in terms of youth participation. I think the heart of this whole strategy has been to engage young people. And we've heard some of the difficulties of that. So I think I would measure success in having a broader relationship with secondary schools. I think without question, and I'm not trying to be critical of them, it is just a difficult task to work in that sector. One, stuff that is not really to do with school just is difficult. So I think that's a job for us, for myself and for Anne's team, so that we engage more with secondary heads, so there's more proactivity and recognition that youth work is really important. And I think we can all agree it is really important, given all the things that young people face. So that's, I think, that's your first question. The second question, I scribbled it down because I had to take Anne's pad. You want to know how we, which of the strategy things, recommendations we prioritise. I think that's rather a difficult question. I'll probably have to come back to you on that right now. But what I would say is, for me, I think having the voice, I'm sorry to repeat, I think having the voice of young people in proactive engagement in challenging what we do, supporting what we do, driving it. I mean, how we communicate with young people, all those things are so important. So it's not just like activities, it's the actual process of relationship with young people, and that we are champions for them as well. And the third one, why did we do it now? Because we have a plan. So we're ahead of the national strategy would be my answer, but Anne will probably be answered much better than me.
Thank you, Councillor. So as Councillor Brabazon says, we have our solid plan and we're ahead. We've produced it ahead of the national one and we'll update it appropriately. I suspect that what we have in ours will align with the national strategy because we're alert to those conversations and those arguments and principles that are coming forward. Thank you.
Okay, so if we can move to the resolution on this, which is set out in page 3.1 to 3.2, the report on page 47. Are we all in agreement? Thank you. Thank you, thanks. So if we can move to item 10, which is the acceptance of the Connect to Work grant. Can I ask Councillor Gordon to introduce, please?
Yeah, thank you. So this is about acceptance of the Connect to Work grant, which I'm seeking approval to accept £3.8 million. This comes via the sub-regional group of councils known as Central London Forward. It will fund a 5-year programme carried out by Haringey Works for employment support around the individual placement and support model. Just a little bit about that, the Connect to Work is a voluntary, non-mandated employment support. The model that we're adopting is that Haringey Works will carry out 50% of that programme, and there will be a commissioned service for the other 50%. We hope to, subject to your approval tonight, we hope to launch Connect to Work in July And over the 5 years, we hope to be supporting almost 1,000 people into good and sustainable work in the borough. So I'll leave it at that and wait for questions.
Questions? Nice and straightforward. Councillor Emery.
Thank you, Chair. 3 questions on this one. The 50-50 split, which you just mentioned, how was that decided in terms of the reasoning for the 50-50 split between Haringey Works and yourselves? Second question, the 450 people Haringey Works helped into employment in the last year. I'm looking for an idea of the economic data that underlies these people. Is it in terms of long-term unemployed people? Is it economically inactive? Largely people claiming benefits of some sort? Just trying to get an idea of where those people, in what way they were helped into employment. And then finally, the table at point 6, which is on page 128, gives quite precise numbers of the residents who are planned to be assisted year by year. Are these numbers supposed to be broadly indicative, or is there a hard limit in earlier years?
Yeah, thank you. So the different boroughs have adopted different approaches. Some boroughs are would be doing the provision 100%, and some themselves in-house, and other boroughs are would be a completely commissioned service, and there's a couple of other boroughs like ourselves where we decided that 50-50 for now would be the most appropriate given the resources that we've got while we develop the programme. So it isn't forever set in stone, but we've got a 5-year plan, and we think that was about what we could cope with. But we've got once the provider is appointed, then we will be, and we've been the procurement of that provider, we've been involved in that work as well. So once that's decided, we'll be working hand in glove with that outside provider. On the I'm wondering whether I could bring Helen McDonough forward to give examples of, I sort of think we've got some cracking examples of the amount of work that we've done, and you know, that we work with more than 450 people in the past year, but we have got good examples, and we've also got criteria about what we mean by good work, so in terms of London Living Wage and so on. But I wonder whether Helen could give some examples of the sort of people and the demographic of those people as well, which I think was your third question about how, you know, what sort of people we are helping. With this programme, I should just say that it involves us engaging with employers and getting people into work fairly quickly. So it is a challenging programme, and I think that's why we wanted to take it sort of one step at a time as well. So if we could ask Helen to supplement, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, it's working. Hi there, Helen McDonough, Head of Inclusive Economy Service. So Haringey, and the question was about Haringey Works, was it? And the number of people we support into work. Yeah. So and just to kind of say and kind of reiterate, we are actually working with substantially higher numbers than that. It's about the numbers that we get into work. So the service supports a range of residents, and we do that through engaging with our residents in the areas of the highest unemployment. So we reach out specifically into the east of the borough, probably predominantly. We're based on some of the key estates like Broadwater Farm, but also Northumberland Park. And the service tends to support a range of people, that all of whom will be out of work and seeking work, looking for work actively. And they have a mix of barriers into work. So some of the posts are focused on those, and they're based in the alcohol service. So they'll be focused on the residents who might have challenges with alcohol or drugs, and they'll be supporting those, providing quite kind of specialist support for those residents. Equally, we run a jobs club and it reaches out to lone parents, those over 50. So we kind of look to support and engage a range of demographics. And we also operate in Rising Green, and we connect with youth services and the early help services. So it's hard to kind of give a clear picture of, we can share case studies, but what you'll find is that the people that Haringey Works are supporting are those furthest from the job market who have kind of complexities around getting into work. And they provide a very bespoke kind of one-to-one service around that.
I think that's broadly indicative of what we wrapped up.
Yeah, and then the second point on the numbers on the Connect to Work programme, the allocations are broadly, so that's kind of like a ceiling allocation. So the allocations are set by DWP and Central London Forward, and it's paid on a basis that on our costs. So how much it kind of costs to deliver the service, but it's expected that we will deliver and support up to that envelope. But the reality has been on all of the programmes that we've delivered that we've overperformed. So whether it's been on ESF programmes or on Shared Prosperity Fund programmes, the reality has been that the service has often been at 120, 130% above contract. So where we can, we support people, and we will pass people around the service in terms of kind of capacity. So if somebody's got capacity, then we'll always provide support.
Thank you. So if we can move to the resolution, which is on page 126, are we all in agreement? Thank you. Item 11, which is the award of a maintenance metering and monitoring contract for the council's solar PV installations. Councillor Catter.
Oh, it's doing that. Nothing near it. Do you know what? It's not bad. Yeah, so this is a paper to award a maintenance contract for the solar PV on the council's estate, so on the council buildings. Essentially, it's ensuring that the systems are safe, that they maximise energy generation and optimise the life of the systems. That's it, really. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions on this report from the Cabinet? No. Councillor Emery.
Only one on this one. 6.19 states that the contract has flexibility built in, but is there a limit on the number of panels covered by the contract? For example, if central government were to provide a grant and we were able to successfully install substantially more panels, would the contract need renegotiation?
What I'll do is I'll pass. So you're right. It is a flexible contract that allows for other third parties on council buildings or new builds, etc., to be able to be added to the contract. But I'll pass to Zoe from our team, or to Teresa, who's in our energy team.
Thank you very much for the question. Yeah, so the kind of key part for now is having we definitely want the systems, the 37 systems that the energy team manage and the 4 systems that the corporate landlord manages in from day one. And as is discussed in the report, other buildings can join. And I think the key kind of point will be in year 3, once we know what will happen with the new build housing development solar PV systems. If they all join, then obviously there's a little bit less capacity to by comparison if they don't join. But there is quite a lot of flex in there. If central government do come forward with a lot of funding, even if they do, it still takes quite a while to develop and design and procure for those installations. So we wouldn't be likely to see, a significant number coming through in the next sort of first couple of years, or certainly wouldn't need significant amount of work. So because, when new systems go in, they're generally fairly light touch, in terms of maintenance because of the warranty periods and things. So we think that there's quite a lot of flex in there, I think, so it should be able to take quite a lot of additional systems.
Thank you very much. So if we can move to the resolution after considering the exempt information at item 25. Item 12, which is the award of the housing asset management partnering contract. Councillor Williams.
Thank you. So it maybe doesn't sound like a very exciting title, but this is a very exciting moment, really. This is more than £500 million into refurbishments of our council homes over the next 10 years, driving up comfort and quality. It's going to bring 100% of council homes in Haringey to decent home standard by 2028. It will take the average council home from a C grade energy rating to EPC B, which cuts bills for thousands of residents. So that means doing things like getting new double glazing, new modern boilers, wall and loft insulation, new front doors, back doors, and various other things. And to make this happen, we're really transforming the way that the builders operate in the borough. Instead of having lots of little contracts, what I'm hoping we'll agree to do tonight is to award 4 larger contracts across each quarter of the borough. And we can constantly watch what these firms are doing, making sure that they constantly deliver quality. And what this lets us do is bring our residents into decision making in a much bigger way, both in procurement and governance. When we're designing repairs or refurbishment for a series of homes or a whole building, there's a real opportunity to collaborate with residents on how that looks, with regular engagement with our resident voice board, who are actually involved in this procurement. And we're going to write those requirements into our contracts. And at the same time, the scale and length of these contracts of 10 years allows us to create jobs and opportunities for local people in the borough. This is a real investment, not just in bricks and mortar, but also in local people. And I'm extremely delighted that at last, and thanks to the team for all their hard work on this, we're in a position to be able to award some contracts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. It is a pretty huge deal, so thank you for laying that out so clearly. Any questions from anyone on this? Any cabinet members, I should say? Councillor Emery.
Thank you, Chair. 3 questions on this one, quite short ones. Firstly, what proportion of Haringey's council houses currently meet the decent home standard? Secondly, what proportion of Haringey's council houses are currently rated EPC B or above? And thirdly, what scores do the successful bidders achieve?
So I think we're at 70% decent at the moment, are we?
It's moving nearer to 80%.
Great.
As at the end of last year.
I'm afraid I can't answer those technical questions about the scores or the. Did you say D or B? You did say B. You were right, Simon.
I'd have to come back to you about the rating, the number of properties with the B rating. With regard to the scores, the winning bidder for lot one, let me give as an example, got a maximum of 81.34% out of 100. And they did win, as it said in the report, they did win 3 of the lots, although they're only able to be awarded 1.
Am I okay to get the rest back in writing? They're the first 2.
One on the EPCB.
Yeah, and the first one in terms of proportion of. Oh, actually, you said that one, didn't
you?
70-80.
Non-decency is about 20% now.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. Thank you.
Okay. And just to say, there has been progress on that from when we took the Elmo back in-house in terms of
10%
increasing
increase,
the decency.
But this will mean we can do things at more speedily, at more pace, across the borough.
Okay, so thank you. And we will return to the resolutions after considering the exempt information at item 26. Item 13, which is the Broadwater Farm resident access, councillor Hakata.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is a request to deliver a location-based exemption scheme for Broadwater Farm residents in the West Green Bruce Grove LTN. The reasons for this is there are unique aspects to Broadwater Farm that we won't see anywhere else in the borough, frankly, and certainly not in any of our LTNs. It is within it. I mean, we've had this conversation as a cabinet about, but it is designed essentially as an LTN. It might not be directly for low traffic, but it is designed to minimize through traffic, which means that it's essentially an LTN within an LTN. It also is a very high population density within Broadwater Farm and low car ownership. So for the people and crucially very low PTAL scores, which is the access to public transport scoring. So ultimately it's very difficult if you are in the southern side of Broadwater Farm to actually go south towards Phillip Lane. You would have to go north up to Tottenham High Road or Lordship Lane to be able to make that journey south. So it's the greatest journey of anyone within an LTN. And the purpose of this paper is essentially to balance both equity and access demands with the ability to keep the the purpose of the LTN intact.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Chamwani.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. So firstly, I just want to say thank you for listening to the feedback of residents. It wasn't anyone's intention to create a high traffic neighbourhood, and by giving such a huge estate only one way in and one way out, I know residents on the kind of Bruce Castle side, which was the straw taking people in and out, became a high traffic neighbourhood. And I think it's also really important to note that residents on this specific estate have been sort of almost cut off inadvertently by the LTM because they can't get to South Tottenham, especially where their medical provision is. They also can't get to Wood Green without kind of going all the way around. So I just kind of really want to welcome this, if I could.
Yeah, no, and appreciate your advocacy for residents there. And I just want to underline that point that you made, which is a good one, which is so there is a potentially unintended positive consequence that wasn't in the initial design, which is that there is only one way in and out. You're right. And the residents that live on that particular entry and exit from the LTN obviously are getting the most burden. So this will disperse traffic onto other roads for those people coming in and out of Broadwater Farm, which will have a positive impact. Thanks.
Any more questions from the cabinet? No. Okay, Councillor Emery. No questions from Councillor Emery. Okay, so if we can move to agree the resolutions on pages 157 to 158 of the agenda. Are we in agreement? Agreed. Okay. Item 14, Broadwater Farm Major Works Programme. Councillor Williams.
So this is another contract that I'm absolutely delighted to have got over the line. Broadwater Farm is seeing now real change with the investment that's going on there, and this is part of it. So this is going to basically just make things feel better. So it's going to go onto new communal flooring for
8 blocks, waterproofing to existing balconies, upgrades to essential pipework, repairs to areas of sort of aged flaking concrete and redecoration externally, something that hasn't been done in anyone's living memory, I don't think. And it follows a recent programme of fire safety updates, which concluded earlier this year. And again, residents have been heavily involved in designing the work and contributed to options around floor coverings, finishes, colours. And these changes will enhance the communal areas and external appearance of the blocks, just giving the estate a really sort of new, fresh look. So hopefully we will agree for this.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. And we were there earlier today, weren't we? We could certainly see some of the improvements that are already taking place there. Any questions from the Cabinet? Councillor Gordon.
Well, it's not really a question, it's more of a comment really that, you know, I really welcome this work on Broadwater Farm because it goes alongside the other work that we're doing to renew the estate and build new homes that will replace some of the smaller homes that were there and replace them with larger family-sized homes. So that's addressing another issue that we have of overcrowding. But I think this sort of lives up to the promise that we made at the time when we were doing the engagement, that it isn't just about you know, demolishing blocks and putting up new build, but also actually improving the existing estate as well. And I think this means that we're following through on that promise. And I'm really pleased. And I think that the residents will see that we actually stood by what we said we were going to do, and we're actually implementing it now on both programmes.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments from the Cabinet? Councillor Emery.
Thank you, Chair. 3 questions. In terms of the pilot blocks, how were these selected? Secondly, in terms of the leaseholders, is the council attempting to recover costs from all of these or only the people in the pilot blocks? And then lastly, given the long time frame of the project, are there any concerns that costs will rise due to increasing disrepair over the period?
So this contract is. Your last question was about disrepair, was it?
Yeah. So in terms of, because it's quite a long time frame for this project to fully complete, is there any chance that obviously the disrepair that's currently there will get worse? Therefore, we will need to come back to the contract because of continuing disrepair.
Okay, so you're asking about the broader programme within Broadwater Farm. So I think I'll bring Jahed in on that, if that's okay.
Evening, Jada Rahman, Director of Housing. I suppose in terms of disrepair claims, a large proportion of these works are external works. And ordinarily, when we do receive disrepair claims, it's in relation to internal works not being done. So we don't necessarily see that as a risk, or disrepair claims may increase as a result of us doing these works. In terms of leaseholder cost, leaseholders are clearly required to make a contribution as part of their demise and as part of their block. So where we do plan investment works, leaseholders will be required to make a contribution towards those works. However, Haringey have one of the most generous leaseholder repayment options available in London. Leaseholders can pay the cost over a 25-year period. They can put a charge on the property. So on a case-by-case basis, we'd work with leaseholders just to make sure that any recharge or a large bill is repayable over a flexible period.
Can I just come back on one of those? Just on your first answer there, I think my question was more to do with, because of the length of the project, were there any chances of the disrepair getting worse? As in, obviously we're repairing a lot of issues in this area. So is there a chance that this could get worse if it's over this entire time frame?
So
Okay. No, so the large proportion of the external works will not be taking 10 years to complete, if that's in relation to what your comment is. Yeah. Large proportion. So the external works will be done in a fairly succinct period. It's not going to be taking 10 years to do.
I think the paper talks to the broader project and is describing why this project is being run on a quicker time frame to get that new fresh look while we're waiting for the more extensive works to take place as we see the new builds come online. And I would say on the disrepair question, of course, any investment we make is going to make a difference to those sort of problems on the estate. Yeah.
Still is that question that I asked the first time round, which is the how would
So Emery, you have to go through the chair. I mean, I'm lenient somewhat, but it's not a constant dialogue. So I'll let you come back again and please through the chair.
My apologies. Thank you, Chair. My first question was missed out, I think, which was how the pilot blocks were selected.
Peter De Beek should be online, who should be able to take us through the process. Peter?
Could you hear me?
Yeah.
Could you hear me? Yep. Okay, yeah. In terms of how the pilot blocks were selected, they were based on one of the things was the location of the blocks on the edge of the estate. So we've selected Rochford and Martlesham. Those blocks happen to be towards the south of the estate, if I'm right. Those blocks will be a lot easier for contractors to access without going through the entire estate. So these blocks were selected purely because of their location, the proximity to each other, and obviously the scope of works is identical right throughout the blocks, but mostly it's to do with the location.
Okay. Thank you. So if we can move to the, thank you, Peter. If we can move to the resolutions after considering the exempt information at item 27. Item 15, which is the completion of the 23-24 school streets project. Councillor Hakata.
This works. I think it's got something to do with the microchip I might have had implanted. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. No, it seems to be working now. So this is a report for 3 more school streets in as we are well versed in the fastest growing school streets programme in London. This is for school streets at St Francis de Sales, Bounds Green and Wellbourne primary schools. In fact, actually, I am going to read something because I think this is important. So I was going to talk about how they are incentivising active travel and reducing congestion and cleaning air, etc. But I received this from the team today that came into the School Streets email box, which says, "Hello, School Streets, Haringey councillors. Today, me and my sons were nearly run over by a speeding parent who recklessly accelerated and totally ignored zebra crossing and driving on wrong side of the road, almost clipping my 6-year-old as we both walked on the zebra crossing. He then proceeded to double park while dropping the kid off at Bounds Green. I confronted him and he said, 'Sorry, I didn't see you.' I told him, yeah, because he was driving so fast. That is unacceptable as me and my son could have been seriously injured. The kid was in a company van with no child seat, I would like to add. Why isn't Bounds Green School a school street?" I think that email perfectly explains why, if you discount any of the other reasons, why Bounds Green School needs to have a school street and why, frankly, all of our schools need school streets.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Any questions? Councillor Arkell.
Thanks, Councillor Harker-Carter. I'm glad to see that the residents of Bounds Green are keeping you as busy as they're keeping me busy at the moment. I've just got a very quick question. Obviously, in the papers, there are a lot of feedback, both objections and support. And I'd just like to know how these are going to be addressed, both for people in Bounds Green and for the other school streets that are being proposed this evening, but also when they are actually implemented, what support will be for residents as they get used to them.
Thank you. Yeah, we did get a lot of traffic in terms of emails and obviously lobbying you as ward councillors as well, as ward councillor. The for and against, I should say, and a lot of the objections in relation to it were to do with access issues, especially for residents on Tredegar and Park Road, saying that their only main route will be through Palace Gates Road, and we took a walk down there. What we have agreed to do is we will absolutely do, on all of our school streets, we do monitoring before, during and after implementation, and we will have enhanced monitoring and really check on how that access is actually operating. We're hoping that we're going to see, as we do in many of our other school streets or all of our other school streets, a reduction in traffic anyway. Also, a lot of people have concerns, but once they have a school street, which is restrictions for only 45 minutes of the day either side, they realise it doesn't impact them as much. But absolutely, we will be taking all of the views and making sure that we monitor and then feedback to yourself and to residents.
Councillor Chamwani.
Hi, Councillor Clark. I'm asking a lot of questions today. I don't know what's happened to me. It's the same question I ask every time we've been school streets. So obviously I'm very excited about us having school streets. There's nothing more important than keeping children safe. I'm just kind of worried about the adjacent roads on the other side of the school street and how we manage that. And as you know, this is happening in a few places where parents haven't changed their kind of driving behaviour. They're just doing exactly what they did, but on the next street. And it's really unfair on those residents who now have to face the new things. So can I just ask, what is it that the team are doing to monitor dispersal to the other streets? And secondly, how are they monitoring people's modal shift from driving to taking public transport or walking, etc.? And what are they doing to kind of encourage that modal shift?
Good questions, and we've got the team here, so I will pass on to them. But I would just before bring in, I think it's Tim, who is one of the key designers of the schemes, is that obviously they're not, any system is not necessarily going to be perfect, but the key is do they address as many of the issues that we aim for them to address? But at the same time, obviously looking at ways in which we can refine and improve them. But what I'll do is I'll pass over to Tim. Oh, Barry will take, Barry who leads that team.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Yeah. Thank you very much for the question, Councillor Chamwani. I mean, as you know, we monitor all of the school streets once they're implemented. It's something that we do to make sure that the scheme's working effectively, both in terms of delivering the operational outcomes, but also for local residents. The way in which we design the schemes is pretty much based on where the schools are located. So we look at the size of the local area in terms of walking into and around. So the position of the gates, for example, will determine exactly whereabouts school street operates from and to. So some of them are bigger than a single street. And we also look at what other enforcement opportunities there are in the area for people who do try to contravene, so parking on yellow lines in adjacent streets, for example, and that will be enforced through our parking enforcement operations.
I have actually been asking for about 4 months for monitoring data for a school street in the ward that I represent, West Green, and I've been unable to get it. I have escalated it to you, so if I can get that after the meeting, I'd really appreciate it. But my understanding is that they're not collecting the disbursement of cars that used to be on one road who have now decided to go on an adjacent road.
Yes, I mean, as I understand it, I think for that particular street, the officers have agreed to give you the data. So if they haven't done already, I don't know why, but I can look into why. But if they agreed to do it, yeah.
Any more questions? No. Councillor Emery?
Hey, Chair, just one question on this one. During the informal consultation, the feedback in the St. Francis was particularly negative. Were changes made between the informal and formal consultations, or was a view taken that the original concerns weren't valid?
Well, we take the opinion that all concerns are valid. And it's just about understanding, one, on balance, whether we can, what we can do to mitigate them or address them. For this one, I will pass on to Tim, who is waiting in the wings. Yeah.
Good evening. Tim Walker, Programme Manager in Traffic and Parking. In St Francis, there were objections made in the first. We've done 2 rounds of consultation on this. We didn't make any changes to that. The comments that were made were more around from sort of parents feeling the sort of the impact that it might have on them, rather than any kind of particular concerns that we could address in terms of the design of the school street. So unfortunately, in that one, it wasn't possible to make changes, unlike we did with Bounds Green.
Thank you. So if we can move to the resolution as set out on page 192 of the agenda, are we all in agreement? Agreed. Item 16, which is the Property Disposals Programme 25-26, Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, thank you. So this paper is has emerged following an extensive review of our land and property assets under our Strategic Asset Management and Property Improvement Plan, SAMPIP. Following those reviews, we found that a number of properties are deemed to be surplus to requirements. They may be costing the council money to maintain, and we are unable to use them for housing or for service delivery, and and they would lack development potential. The paper is asking Cabinet to approve the land and property disposal policy, which is another policy document within our armoury to ensure that we've got a robust and transparent governance process over properties. So this is strengthening the approach of the SAMPIP, and that's a key component of the corporate delivery plan. So having undertaken this detailed assessment of the properties, there's a list that's coming under consideration, a programme list for 25-26, and we're asking permission to put together a business case for each and every asset ahead of its disposal.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon. Any questions on this paper from the Cabinet? No, okay. Councillor Emery.
Thank you, Chair. 3 questions on this one. How does the council intend to balance its capital receipts revenue targets with its obligation to secure the best value for all asset sales, especially when retaining an asset incurs ongoing upkeep costs? And then question number 2, and this refers to 5.1.2, which is on page 277. It states that disposals of properties valued between 250,000 and 500,000 will be signed off by the Director of Placemaking and Housing, while those under £250,000 will be signed off by the Assistant Director for the Capitals Projects and Property. With the Council's new structure charts, placemaking and housing are now covered by 2 different directors, one sitting in the Adults Housing and Health Directorate and the other in the Cultural Strategies and Communities Directorate. Meanwhile, there is a director, not assistant director, for capital projects and properties, but this sits in the finances department. I'm just looking for a little bit of clarification on that one. Apologies for the long question. And then the last question, question number 3, the lack of visibility on Appendix A is slightly concerning. We appreciate that this includes some sensitive financial information, but is there a way to scrutinise the choice of assets?
I will ask the officers to come back, but obviously the review process on each and every property is thorough from the point of view of whether that is about the nuts and bolts of the building itself, or whether it can be possibly used by any existing service, whether it can be converted for housing, and so on and so forth. So all of that process goes through the various boards, which I'm going to ask officers to come and explain in more detail, because there has been a lot of change. So I think it's well worth making that really clear. And so that there is that checking, those checks and balances within that process to make sure that not only have we done it once, but we've done it twice. You know, when we come to do the business case for each individual property, then that's when it is also double checked again that there can be no other use for that. It might be that there will be other buildings for consideration, much as we would with any property management plan, and there might be consideration to purchase buildings where there is a need that comes from a service. So it's all part of our developing the borough's corporate landlord strategy of where we acquire buildings and where we dispose of buildings. And we, you know, having gone through a large part of this process, we've come up with, you know, a programme that we think is viable for this next year. I'll ask officers to come back on the question of the structure and the reasons why the appendix is in the exempt part of the paper.
So the reference to the Constitution is a direct quote from the Constitution. The Constitution has not yet been updated to reflect the current structure chart. However, the detail within the disposal policy itself does make reference to the new structure. So that's around decisions being made by the Corporate Director for Finance and Resources or the Director for Capital Projects and Property. With regards to the lack of visibility on Appendix A, the balance of whether or not to choose to publish a disposal list is something that we've given a lot of thought to. Obviously, the need for transparency is important and it helps us build trust with residents and the wider community. However, balanced against this, we perceived it as compromising our negotiation strategies and our commercial sensitivity, which would create a more complex environment for us to negotiate the best consideration we could get for those assets that we're disposing of. We're also quite keen to discourage speculative behaviour from developers and other parties that could lead to unfavourable outcomes for Haringey and the community. So on balance, we decided it was better to retain the Appendix A as exempt. However, when properties do come to the market, they will be published on our website and clearly marketed as well. So that there will be full visibility of them at that point.
Thank you, Sarah. So we will return to the resolutions after considering the exempt information at item 28. Item 17, Strategic Heat Network update on delivery. Councillor Hakata.
Yep, so this is for to essentially stop the work on that was put out, which was described in our outlined business case in 2021 for the council to set up a wholly owned subsidiary which would finance, own and deliver net zero heat energy to properties across the borough. Obviously, between 2021 and now, we have seen massive changes, not only in the global and national economies, but also in terms of the cost of living and also just the finances of the council itself. Therefore, I think it makes absolute sense that we would rethink our approach here and de-risk the council's position. However, I would just underline that this is not a retreat from delivering decarbonisation across the borough. It is not a retreat from looking at solutions, climate-friendly solutions to energy in the borough, but more a recalibration, a stop and a pause to look at what way we can continue to be a leader regionally in this area. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Catt. Questions from the Cabinet on this report? Councillor Emery.
Thank you, Chair. 2 questions on this one. Is there a possibility the council will be forced to repay grant money to central government, including funds which have already been utilised? And then the second question, there are a number of references in the report to risk to the council. Is this simply alluding to the financial necessity of the council scaling back its capital programme, or has another risk been identified?
I'd say, so I'm going to pass over to Joe, who's online, to go into a bit of detail. But just to say that we have been throughout this whole process in, especially over the last few months, in close conversations with government. They are fully in support of the council and finding a solution together. So I don't think there's a sort of the use of the word force is necessary. At the moment, we are just exploring options into how we can continue that relationship, including the financial support. And sorry, the second one was on
some reports of risk to the council.
Yeah,
mentioned.
so I think, you know, we all know what the risks to a council would be to set up such an enormous undertaking, and this is a de-risking operation, basically. I mean, that is essentially it. It is a response to risk. I'll pass over to Joe just to see if he has anything more to add.
Thank you, Councillor. Joe Baker, Head of Carbon Management. You've asked a question about the risk about repayments. This paper sets out that the council will be reviewing all options with the government. We want to work with them to deliver the strategic aims of the national government and the GLA, and also the borough's ambition. We cannot be in a position where we take on board the risk profile you've highlighted in your second question. All of the possibilities and all the options will be reviewed and agreed with government. They'll be signed off through the due process of the organisation, and all the risks around that will need to be investigated and fully understood by all parties. We will not work to have to deal with the repayments issue. It's not an ambition of ours, but it is an outcome that we are prepared for if we need to be.
Thank you, Joe. So if we can return to resolution after considering the exempt information, item 29. Item 18, Streets for People Investment Plan. Councillor Catt.
Thank you. I think there's not a huge amount that needs to be said. We have an ambition as this council to build the infrastructure for future generations that is both incentivising and making active travel a basic, natural form to get around a borough, for a cleaner, greener and safer borough. And this investment plan just essentially maps out the projects that are in that programme over the next 5 years, subject to priority, subject to prioritisation and subject to consultations on each and every one. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions from the Cabinet on this report? No. Councillor Emery.
Just one question on this one, and I don't have anything for the next topic either. Were there any criteria used for the selection of projects, or were they added to the plan ad hoc? For instance, was the walking and cycling action plan used to prioritise the projects? Were there any criteria used for the selection of projects? or were they added to the plan ad hoc?
Well, it definitely wasn't ad hoc, but as you'll see from the ambition of the program, it's huge. And fundamentally, the main strategies that have sort of driven this are the walking and cycling action plan. There are elements, obviously this is held by a different budget, but the road danger reduction plan as well as the Haringey's transport strategy, which we are at present redrafting and will be going out to consultation. But ultimately the answer is yes, there is a strategy. It comes from previous strategies. This is not a strategy in itself. It's just an implementation of a strategy. Barry?
Yeah, thank you. Just to add to that, I mean, the criteria depends on location, delivering our overall strategic transport objectives, as well as the Mayor of London GLA objectives. But also look at issues around traffic flow, around road traffic accident data. Also, all of that is factored into the selection criteria.
Thank you. Okay, if we can move to the resolution, which is on page 316 to 317 of the agenda. Are we all agreed? Okay, item 19. So that's the establishment of the Corporate Parenting Committee and appointment of cabinet members to committees and partnerships, and confirmation of their terms and reference. This is you, Richard.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Chair. Just to highlight that this is an annual report to re-establish the Corporate Parenting Advisory Committee and Community Safety Partnership as cabinet subcommittees. The proposed terms of reference are contained within appendices, A and B.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on this? No. Okay, so the resolution is on page 367 to 368. Are we all agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. Okay, item 20, significant and delegated actions. Can we please note the decisions taken by directors on pages 379 to 388? Item 21, minutes of other bodies. Can we please note the minutes of cabinet member sign-ins from pages 389 to 420? Item 22, new items of urgent business. There are no new items of urgent business. 23, which is the exclusion of the press and public. So items 27, 28, 29 and 30 allows for consideration of exempt information in relation to items 10, 12, 16 and 22. So can I please move that the press and public be excluded from the remainder of the meeting to consider this exempt information as defined under paragraphs 3 and 5, Part 1, Schedule 12 of the Local Government Act 1972. Do we all agree? Agreed. Thank you. So I'm formally closing the public section of this meeting.